A Utah farmer enters Southern California in the very early 1850s, right after statehood. And he is advised before he comes, don't bring slaves there. He does it anyway. But word gets back about the existence of these slaves to the sheriff, who is a white man, who gathers a posse together, and they find these people being held. They bring the slaves for a court hearing where the judge invites the farmer to come and present testimony, and the farmer beats it. He gets out of California as quickly as he can, and the judge immediately emancipates the former slave.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to go over a few things here. A few things that I deem as a problem. Now, here we have is that California has approved to pay us up to $1.2 million for every black resident there by the California Reparations Panel, which is insane. But even if this does go through, and we say this is going to happen, even though we don't have the money to do so to every single black person in this state, I'm pretty sure if I got 1.2 million, I'll probably be down probably 400, 500K, because for 100K, at least, it's going to some friends of mine that are very close to me that I would be giving it to. People that I know that are actually struggling in the day of life, and 100K would 100% change their lives. Here's the thing here. I'm not being this greedy son of a bitch that so happens to think that they owe me money, or the state owes me money, or any of my friends that owe me money. So it'd be my way of giving it back to them. The only reason why I'd be keeping some of it is to, well, buy myself a house outside of this hellhole state, and keep some of the rest of it for maybe starting up a business. Because I think that's the more logical way to do it. But look at these clowns, these absolute idiots, talk about the whole, me, we need money because we are pathetic people that can't earn ourselves a living. Because we're offended, we've been the victims, even though they have never been a victim of slavery. Take a look.
Security, I want them out. I want that contingent out. Security, I need that contingent out. I need those contingent in the corner out. They have to go.
And if our economists don't evaluate those numbers, well, the $1.2 million, that's a drop in the bucket. I'd rather there be $10 million. Reverend Brown, in fact, $5 million is not enough when you look at the atrocities that happened to our ancestors. Nobody's talking about it.
The bond fund has $2.9 billion. All we're asking for is $120 billion, because I'm demanding that we have $5,000 every single month.
If you are running for office, do not think you are going to win your election if you don't have a concrete plan for reparations. Biden, do not seek a second term unless it's accompanied by an executive order for reparations for descendants of American chattel slavery.
Pay the debt, cut the check, or no reparations, no vote 2020.
So now you see that these people are lunatics, asking for money and what have you, and, you know, all the issues that need to particularly happen, and great stuff, right? Well, we have this lunatic over here. Now I talk about slavery and all the other issues that we have. Let me put this in perspective, buddy. Slavery did not exist when you were alive, all right? Okay, so that's the thing. I can tell that you're probably around maybe 40, 50 years old. God forbid if you're 30. But there was no slavery. You were not enslaved. Now, was there racism? Of course, there was, especially in your time. But that's no longer a thing. There was no slavery there. And the fact that you should be compensated for something that you did not experience, and especially the white people today that didn't experience, is asinine. Why don't you take a look of his insanity?
Yet you research back to slavery and you say nothing about slavery. Nothing. So the equivocal number from the 1860s for 40 acres today is $200 million for each and every African American. You're not supposed to be afraid. You're not supposed to be afraid. You're just supposed to tell the truth. You're not supposed to be the gatekeepers. You're supposed to say what the people want and hear from the people.
I like for every single African American for the piece of land that he's claiming for is $200 million. That's great and all, and I would gladly set $200 million because not only would it be a simple of 100,000 to each of my friends, it will probably be around probably 10 to 20 million for each of my friends if it was something close to that. So please give me 200 million. But in all honesty, in reality, it seems that this is stupid, because to give every single black person, just a black person, $200 million would mentally bankrupt the entire state, probably like 60 times over. So the fact that you want to do this is insanity in itself. We can't even do a 1.2 million for each black American. Do you honestly think we can do for 200 million? You're living in cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs land, you lunatic. Of course, these people are grifters. They just want to get free money and not be able to work for a day of their lives. I don't think they understand what the meaning of the work is. Seems like this guy was just straight out of a garbage bin coming to this meeting to get free money. Well, we have the ringleader of it all, trying to advocate for all this stuff. And, of course, he's literally no different. He's a bit more calmer than the rest and sounds less of a lunatic, but again, he's just no different. Take a look.
We have to understand we have to focus and keep the emphasis on it being lineage-based. The problem is we see a lot of trick bag language being mixed into it, where it opens the floor for other groups to come in and undermine us. Reparations in the form of lineage-based compensation is not a compensation for racism. Let's be very clear. If we open the door to racism, Hispanics can come in, Asians can come in, Middle Eastern people can come in. It will become affirmative action again, where we are left holding the crumbs and everybody else is holding the cake. So we have to focus on the lineage-based reparations, especially the aggrievement that our foundational Black American lineage accrued out here in California. In California, this was a state that allowed slavery. People say that this wasn't a slave state. There was informal slavery here. The only reason they made it a technicality to make slavery illegal in California, they didn't want the white wealthy slave owners back east coming here getting all the prime real estate. They had slavery out here. Our foundational Black American brothers and sisters and our ancestors were out here working enslaved. San Bernardino, California was a slave colony. There were slave colonies here around the Bay Area. We couldn't get out of slavery because they made it illegal for Black people to testify against white people. That's how they trick bagged us up into slavery here. We have to be compensated for that. The second thing is we can't include all of these other groups with our reparations package. We hear a lot of Black and Native American. We hear a lot of Black and brown. That won't work either. All of these other groups, they've been compensated. Every single group besides foundational Black Americans has been compensated. White slave owners were compensated. White immigrants in the 1800s were compensated with the Homestead Act. Okay.
Thank you so much for your comments
this morning.
Family. What I find hilarious is that he was talking about how California was a slave state. Well, California was never a slave state. It was more along the lines removed in the 1850s, to where it was based in law, and people were emancipated for it. So I really want to say what he's going off with this. If you want to know more, you can go look at this gentleman. That kind of explains on the slave story that doesn't add up with everything they're doing. They're completely removing and ignoring history, and I think this little clip will show you exactly what I mean. Take a look.
A Utah farmer enters Southern California in the very early 1850s, right after statehood. And he is advised before he comes, don't bring slaves there. He does it anyway. But word gets back about the existence of these slaves to the sheriff, who is a white man, who gathers a posse together, and they find these people being held. They bring the slaves for a court hearing, where the judge invites the farmer to come and present testimony, and the farmer beats it. He gets out of California as quickly as he can. And the judge immediately emancipates the former slaves. Now, one of those is a woman named Biddy Mason. Ms. Mason delivered babies the way an obstetrician might today, and then becomes a property owner. And in her 50s is already a millionaire. So let's summarize. African-American woman brought to California, liberated, who goes on to become one of the wealthiest landowners in Southern California. So this hardly matches with the commission's sense that this was a terrifying place for African-Americans to be. They come to California because they're treated far better here than they are just about anywhere else in the United States of America.
So as you can see there, that this man seems to be quite knowledgeable in this. And I will put the description down below for where you can watch from the California Insider, because it is a pretty eye-opening thing that you're gonna learn a bit more about California's history and the reality of what these people are really wanting here. Now we're gonna go to this, to where this crazy white liberal lady is saying how she should be, you know, empathetic and sorry for all the slaves that her people have done. Well, hate to break it to you, lady, I don't want your sympathy, and I sure as hell don't want you speaking the way that you are, because we don't need your help, we don't need your sympathy. Take a look.
People from their native land. We strip them from their families, from their culture, and from their birthright. Yet white America has turned a blind eye to this and say they should get over it, or it's been so long and it doesn't affect the African Americans today, because it happened so long ago. On behalf of myself, my family, and my ancestors, I want to publicly apologize to the African American community for our ignorance, our arrogance, our insensitivity to your cause, and for any part we may have had in the atrocities done to your people.
Lady, your family has nothing to do with the amount of slavery that has happened to the black people in that time. Same thing of those white people today, especially you, have nothing to do with slavery. There's nothing for you to apologize for. Why? Because you didn't do it. It's like, why would I blame somebody or anybody for a crime that one of their own family did that they didn't do? That's asinine and stupid, and that's exactly what you're doing. I don't condone any of this. This is all insanity. Why would I want reparations from a group of friends of mine or family members that for something they did not do or participate in at all? They have no correlation with it. Even if their ancestors did, by some means, even their ancestors did, why would I blame them for that? It's not their fault. They didn't make those actions. This is the reason why you liberals are bloody morons. You're idiots. Stop trying to make us feel like you owe us anything. You don't. It's like, it's insanity. Leave us alone and let us get on with our lives. That's really all we want. And what we're going to go from here is obviously this, because you people need to know. Payouts up to $1.2 million for every black resident approved by California Reparations Panel. On Saturday, the California Reparations Task Force voted on the final set of recommendations to send the state legislatures, formally recommending that the state pays up to $1.2 million to every qualifying black resident. During the task force public meeting in Oakland, the 9-member panel called on the state to give black residents a formal apology as well as the payments, according to Fox News. California entered the union as a free state, and the slavery was never legal under state law. Yeah, exactly, which is what the clip I just showed you guys for. Reparations are not only morally justifiable, but they have the potential to address long-standing racial disparities and inequalities, said Representative Barbara Lee after attending the meeting. Payments received by black residents would be broken down into two types of historical discrimination, with black residents affected by bank relining, my apologies. For example, receiving $300,366 for each year they lived in California between the early 1930s and to the late 1970s, adding up to $148,000. For those living in California between 1970 and 2020 that were affected by over-policing and mass incarceration, black residents would receive roughly $2,352 for each year they lived in the state, amounting to upwards of $115,000. In total, a black Californian around the age of 71 that has lived in the state for their entire life could receive up to $1.2 million. Okay, that's great. So, great. That's going to make a lot of things better. The panel does not have any legal weight, and the Saturday vote included only recommendations for the state legislature. However, Governor Gavin Newsom has backed the concept of reparations in the state. He formed the reparations panel in 2021. California is the leading nation in bipartisan way on the issue of reparations and racial justice, which is a discussion that is long overdue and deserves our utmost attention, said Governor Newsom at the time. Last year, I signed into law a number of key bills focused on leveling the playing field in our society and ensuring that everyone has a fair shot at achieving the California dream. Today's appointment of individuals with an extensive breadth of knowledge, experiences, and understanding of issues impacting the African community is the next step in our commitment as a state to build a California for all. The cost of reparations for the state, should they choose to enact the plan, could be in excess of $800 billion. Yeah. That is the low ball, I would honestly say, because because if they want the 200 million, it'd be far more. Some black residents who attended Saturdays demanding larger payments, including Reverend by Tony Pierce, who made reference to the stake 40 acres and a meal promise made to former slaves when he took the podium. So, as you can see here, this sanity is going on, and this is the reality that we're living in. Gavin Newsom is a fool, and I can't wait till they bankrupt the entire state, because they'll have the problems. I highly doubt this will go through, but if it does, I guess money for me, and I guess I'll take that money to leave. Alright guys, that's the video. Like, subscribe, share, as always. Take care.